Hi, welcome, Celeste. I would like to introduce you to our viewers. Celeste Sirin is Employer Branding South Africa Managing Director, and she's a co-founder of Science Bridge. So welcome, Celeste.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure. I know that you are a specialist in the field, specialist in employer branding, as even your company is saying. So I think it's a very important thing that we are going to be discussing here today. And the main point for today's conversation is how one finds the personal brand. What is a personal brand?
Thank you. Thanks, Martina. A personal brand is really about how you are looking in the public space, how you are showcasing yourself in the public space. And nowadays, it's obviously more so virtual and online. It's who you are. It's what you stand for in terms of your values. It's almost equivalent to a company brand. The only difference is it's about you and your persona.
Okay, so if I'm correct now, I have to find my own persona and display it out there. Is that what you mean?
So it is about really putting yourself out there in terms of your profile. So it's about your skills, your behaviors, your qualifications. It's actually your makeup as a brand. You as a brand, how you want to be perceived in the public eye. It's also about your personality and your skills and your experience. If you're not out there, no one knows about you, let's face it. So whatever work you put in to actually composing your presence is really about personal branding. And I think a good example is think about all these icons like and billionaires and entrepreneurs like Nelson Mandela, Trump, all the famous artists, Elon Musk. Think of those big brands. And that gives you an indication of a person. Martina?
I think we have some connection problem.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry for that. Okay, so to recap.
Did I lose you there?
Yes, yeah. I think we disconnected for a second. But to recap what you were saying, it's basically looking at the people out there and seeing that each one of them kind of stands for their own values. Such as Elon Musk will be completely different to persona of some celebrity. So that's what we are displaying. That's what is the personal brand.
Yes, absolutely. And everyone perceives the brand differently, dependent on how people actually are connecting and thing around their personal brand will obviously will influence the perceptions. So a personal brand is, in fact, it's not only interwoven on your digital media platforms, but it's also in, you know, how you conduct yourself when you are networking, etc. So it goes broader than virtual, but for the purpose of this discussion, we're obviously talking about the online presence.
I can see. And when it comes to that, what are the first steps to establish personal brand as a graduate student?
So the best point of departure is, I think I think one has to start looking at yourself as a professional individual that's going out into the workplace. Quite different to your student years, let's face it, when you are at university. And you have to be quite critical in having a look and interrogating how you appear on the various platforms digitally. You have to be looking at who has tagged you. You have to look at how the images, the photographs that are out there. You have to look at yourself critically as a professional individual wanting to recruit this person. And usually the first port of call for recruiters or companies in terms of looking at what this person's real values and behaviors are is they will go to Facebook, because there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. You also need to have a look at your privacy settings as well. Ensure that your privacy settings are set so that you've got a professional personal front, and the information that you don't want companies or recruiters to be privy to, you need to set those settings accordingly. So what I'm saying is you need a point of departure, and the best point of departure is to actually stock take how you are seen in the public space. And
I understand.
Understanding that, yes, so you're making a shift into your professional chapter now.
Yes, it reminds me, there was a case, I think, somewhere in the States that someone got fired over what was their personal image that they displayed online, and it was completely against company values. So it can be quite a tricky thing.
Yes, I mean, there's quite a lot of debate around, a lot of students saying, well, that's my private space and I shouldn't be judged accordingly. So it is quite controversial in terms of, hey, you know what, that's me in my playtime. Please do not scratch around there. But at the same time, the reality is that people are trying to understand your true values and behaviors outside of maybe a professional platform like LinkedIn. And they will go there whether you like it or not. So if you want to play it safe, the best is to actually go into your profile and have a look that everything is where it should be.
So looking at the personal settings and keeping it, private, only for your circle. But would be a problem that someone doesn't exist in virtual space. So there are people who prefer not to have the Facebook profile, not to have a LinkedIn profile. Is that a problem?
It's not a problem at all, but it's always good then, to understand why, and understand that it could disadvantage you, especially when it comes to nowadays you've got sources and talent acquisition specialists within companies and within recruitment agencies that use various social media platforms as a source of information. They do a lot of headhunting for passive clients, or sorry, passive candidates, passive graduates and that. And you might be on the back foot then if your profile is not out there, and you might be losing out on opportunity.
What do you mean by passive candidates though?
Passive candidates are those people that might not be actively looking.
Oh.
They might be very, very qualified, and they're really just showcasing themselves, but at the same time, They want to be there because it's a way of networking and socializing in the business professional space, but they're not actively reaching out or putting themselves out there for a position.
Yes, I remember LinkedIn has this kind of option to activate yourself and show yourself to recruiters.
Yes, 100%. So you can either make yourself available, or you can actually turn yourself off in terms of I'm not available for any job opportunities, which obviously is not the case when it comes to your, you now looking at bridging the gap between the academic world and moving into the professional workplace environment.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, after all, some students will have a bit of a party life, and that can be displayed on Facebook, and you don't necessarily want your future boss to know everything about you and
Yes.
your crazy student times.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think within moderation, and but people tend to be judgmental. So I'm saying to play on the air of caution rather. Don't disadvantage yourself by putting maybe controversial pictures out there that could possibly be an influencing factor when it comes to a company making decisions on whether to pursue your application or not.
Okay, I see. So if we touched already on LinkedIn, can you tell us more about what to do and what not to do on LinkedIn?
Okay.
This is quite a big
Look,
website.
yes, look, LinkedIn is always your go-to platform when it comes to your professional network. And it offers a lot. It really offers a lot, and not only from a professional, experienced professional, but for graduates as well, or people with minimal working experience. What you need to do is obviously ensure that you put a good image, a head and shoulders image there. Don't put yourself with 3 other people and leave the person to guess, now, which one is Martina? I'm actually confused. You can't have your dog licking your face either in the image. So, understanding that you are now on a professional platform and you're not on Facebook, where it's a little bit more casual. So you wear a smart shirt, a smart dress, etc. It's also very important to ensure that you've put exactly what your objective is and the kind of field that you're looking at wanting to enter into, but also don't shortchange yourself and say you are only wanting to be a scientist, when at the end of the day, we know that you as young professionals have got such an enormous amount of transferable skills that recruiters, whether they be directly through companies or external recruiters, can actually tap and hook into. So, within ScienceBridge, we do have a course where we put together the content that needs to reside on a LinkedIn platform. And there's obviously ways and means of writing the content in order to ensure that you profile not only your transferable skills, but your power skills as well. And when I say power skills, it's about those soft skills, which shouldn't really be called soft skills, because it's all those skills that you have demonstrated, especially through the COVID, when it comes to the resilience, the grit, the communication, the presentation skills, the remote working, all of those things that often get overlooked, which needs to really be profiled when you are looking for job opportunities out there. And I think really underplayed. So that content needs to be put onto LinkedIn. It needs to be short. It needs to be to the point. Also, if you've got any articles that you've written, ensure that you've attached those articles, those blogs as well. If you've got any recommendations or any accomplishments, LinkedIn provides space for that, opportunity for you to showcase that as well. It's also very important to network. There are so many different interest groups on LinkedIn that you can become a member to within those groups, where a lot of content is being shared. And in order to build your brand recognition out there and your brand credibility, there's no reason why you shouldn't be sort of tagging and commenting and sharing any posts that you feel would be beneficial to building your brand reputation and your brand credibility. So those are just a few things, Martina. There's a lot there that one can capitalize on.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine. I mean, LinkedIn is also completely different to Facebook, right? So your approach to building your brand there has to be very professional, and
Yes.
reaching out to people that you don't know. You can't be just popping a no message and be like, "Hey, I'm just connecting with you. Just like me here and accept me."
Yes, absolutely. And therein lies another thing, and that's about, you've got in-mails and you've got, you've got communications that you're reaching out to companies or employers of choice that you'd like to affiliate to. And there's ways and means of actually compiling the content of those emails or those in-mails as well, in order to introduce yourself. It's not a Facebook, as you say, when it comes to a casual narrative chat, hey, I want to reach out and connect there. It's a very different language, and it's a very different way of connecting when it comes to the tone of voice.
And it also, you can't be only demanding, it has to be adding value as well. If you're
Yes.
a graduate, you can't be approaching a recruiter on LinkedIn just saying like, hey, I'm just dropping off my CV here.
Yes, exactly that, exactly that. And so there are different ways, obviously on social media, every platform's got its pros and cons, do's and don'ts. And for example, on Twitter, it's always good to actually tweet any comments or share or retweet any comments that you believe will be of interest to your network or to your business associates. And in that way, you grow your following as well. And, for example, putting together white papers, putting together research documents, anything that can build your brand credibility over and above that, you've qualified, and that's really, or in the process of qualifying, it's very, very important to put those accomplishments down.
So if we would like to wrap up the personal brand in virtual space, what are the most important points?
Okay. The important point is really to, as I say, you always need to begin with the end in mind. That's a Stephen Covey statement. And I say that because at the end of the day, you need to know what your objective is. What is your objective for putting your virtual online brand out there? You need to have a core objective. You also need to understand how you're going to measure that. When do you feel that you've arrived at the point that you've got the best virtual online brand that you could have hoped for? Whether it be through joining a whole lot of like-minded groups, whether it be to start getting people actually emailing you and saying, hey, Martina, I'd love to connect with you. Whether you start getting a big following, start building a fantastic following of people that are starting to enjoy the different blogs that you're writing or sharing the different blogs that might be insightful. So I think in terms of that, your LinkedIn profile is a living organism. It cannot just be crafted and left there. You need to be adding value to it all the time. It needs to be evolving. You might be taking a Toastmasters course, you might be taking another course, which is building on your skill set. So you need to ensure it's updated at all times. So if there's anything that I leave you with today, pretend that your personal online brand is a company. A company, you do not just build it and leave it. It needs ongoing nurturing and fostering, and it needs to evolve all the time. So those are really my closing statements, Martina. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Celeste. And if anyone wants to find you, how they can find you?
On LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah, on LinkedIn, I've got a website called Employer Branding South Africa as well. There's a lot of information on there. In fact, we've even got our career development workshop that I hosted with Martina on career development. And there we take a deep dive, right?
Yes.
We take a deep dive into not only personal branding, but networking, CVs, the whole bang shoot. So there's a host of information there.
Okay, thank you so much, Celeste. I'll definitely include those information, how to reach out to you in the link to this video. And I would greatly like to thank you for today's interview. It was plenty of information, and I hope our viewers can get the most out of it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.